Hey, everybody. My name's Tyler James, and I've been working in the game industry for about 18 years now. It sounds like a long time. It doesn't feel that long, but yeah, I've served many different roles from 3D character artist to concept artist and art director as well. So I've hit a few different areas there, but basically my focus is on entertainment design and specifically on building characters and worlds and populating original IPs. That's my real passion. At CGS, I'm curriculum manager for the concept art and illustration program. Yeah, oh my gosh, it just feels like since as far back as I can remember, I've been into drawing. And I think it's due to just exposure, like my family's super creative, you know, movies and comic books and tabletop games and of course video games and just being exposed to all that stuff growing up, it just kind of like sparks that interest. And initially, you don't really think it can be a career, right? Like that's at some point you realize that you can do that, but growing up, you're just sort of making things. And yeah, just having a supportive family was awesome with that. In high school, I decided that I wanted to go to college for art. And at that point, I didn't really know specifically what kind of art. I wanted it to be in the entertainment field in general. But as I was in the degree program I was in college, I started to learn more about the individual roles in the industry. And I realized, I really like sort of character oriented stuff. I like conceptual design, and I also like 3D modeling as well. So that was kind of the area I was in. So I wasn't really into animating as much, wasn't really into special effects as much. So I started to figure out where I wanted to go with that. And then my senior year of college, I got an internship at a studio as a concept artist. And so that was sort of like my first taste of doing real things in the real world. And then my first full time job was doing character art that was a combination of concept art and then also modeling those characters for the game engine. So I sort of did the full pipeline, and it was actually really good for me early on in my career to do so much of the pipeline because I understood a lot more about things when you're doing multiple stages. I always tell people you're never going to feel fully prepared for a job, and it's better that you're maybe shooting a little bit for that higher mark because you're going to land the position and then you're going to kind of grow and adapt. And yeah, it makes you feel a little uneasy at first, but it really is a great way to grow and learn. I think it takes a long time for you to feel like you're really in because of the imposter syndrome, right? Like you can be doing this for years and still feel like, do I really know what I'm doing? And so there has to be all these sort of milestone moments for you to build your confidence and make you feel like you're really, really, truly a professional. And even these days, I question it sometimes, which is funny, but it's true. It just is always with you, that sort of imposter syndrome, and you hear people talk about it all the time. But each project that I was on, each studio that I went to, built the confidence a little bit each time. And the internship over at Obsidian Entertainment, I was working on Neverwinter Nights 2, just doing some concepts, some characters, and I was a complete noob. And the whole team was just super cool and super understanding. Like they knew, hey, this is just this kind of college kid who just doesn't really, really know what's going on, but they were really cool. And it was a learning experience for me. And I was there for a short while. And then I graduated college and I got a full time position working at a studio called In Exile Entertainment, which is a sort of it's a studio formed by Brian Fargo, who was the head of Activision, right? And then he kind of split and made his own little studio. And In Exile now is under the umbrella of Microsoft. But while I was there, they were independent, and we were working in Newport Beach, primarily while I was there on a game called Hunted the Demon's Forge, which was the one that I did a lot of main character concepts for and modeling and whatnot. And I think that I was there enough years and I did enough stuff there to where I felt like, okay, maybe I can start to call myself a professional, which was nice. And just when a game comes out and you see people playing the game and interacting with your characters and seeing things you create get voiced by actors and actresses. Like one of the characters I made was voiced by Lucy Lawless, the Xena warrior princess. And some people may know, she was a pretty big star back in the '90s, and seeing a character that I created being voiced by someone like that, it's just mind blowing. So again, all these little sort of milestones build your confidence over time. Hunted the Demon's Forge was a cool project to be on because it was dark fantasy. It's my favorite genre. I had a good bit of autonomy on the project, and I worked with really really cool people. All the people around my team have all gone on to become amazing artists. Like some of them really quite famous, and so we just had a rock star team, and so that project was special for its own reasons. Another project that was really great I worked on was Rift, which was MMO. I think it's still going actually, but I was sort of there in its golden age when it was a force competing with World of Warcraft and things like that. It was my first time working as a concept artist on a team with a lot of other concept artists. Whereas on previous projects, it was a bit of a smaller team. And so you didn't quite have that many people in those specific roles. So it was me, and there were like 5 or 6 other concept artists all in the concept art pit. And I learned a ton. I learned a ton on that project. And again, I worked with people that are just mind blowingly talented. Just, you really want to be a sponge wherever you go, whatever you're doing. You want to try to absorb all of the content you can, learn techniques, ask questions, and never assume that that you're the smartest person in the room, right? Like that's the worst way to go into a situation. So, I think I learned a lot on that one as well. And it again was one of those things. Actually, uniquely with Rift, it was different than working on Hunted. Hunted was a console release, and so with that, you're sort of stewing on this project for, I don't know, 4 or 5 years, and then it comes out. So you're waiting all this time to see public reaction, except for, little marketing, hits here and there. But it's basically one big moment where you see how people react to what you're doing. With Rift, we were working on what you call a live title, where it's an MMO that is actively being played and you're creating content to update the game. So what's cool about that is that you're doing stuff and you're seeing player reaction really quite quickly. You might work on something for a few weeks and then it comes out in a patch, and maybe you're designing some mounts or maybe some new armor or whatever. And that's cool, right? That like really fuels you, and you hope that players like what you're creating, obviously, and you can even just dive into the game yourself and run around and see what people are saying, or try and acquire some of the stuff you've designed and run around and see, yeah, is this working, is this cool, does it feel like it's fitting in the universe. My first time being an art director, I was art director for about 5 years on a game that I love, called Hex. It was a TCG, digital TCG, that was a sort of competitor to Hearthstone. Um, had kind of a mix between Hearthstone and Magic the Gathering DNA, and uh, amazing project. Again, amazing people I was working with. And as art director on that, I, you know, built a team, and things that art directors would do that you wouldn't necessarily do as just a concept artist, right? So you're building a team, you're constructing pipelines, you're giving feedback on how certain parts of the software work, different kinds of hardware aspects, working with engineers on things. And so again, your scope kind of broadens, and you're sort of like a shield for your artists, right? So it was a cool experience. And I hired so many freelancers for that project from across the world, like hundreds, because we had to make all kinds of cards and all kinds of card art. And it was really fun, like scouting artists and working with some veterans, but also giving some new artists chances to do art for the first time. And a lot of those artists have again gone on to do incredible things, like working for Disney, working for Magic the Gathering, working for Blizzard, like all this stuff. So uh, it's really cool. It was a fun project. So as a concept artist, you're going to come onto the team, you're going to understand the style of the project, you're going to understand what the art director is asking for, and you're going to collaborate with the necessary team members to try to nail things as quickly as you can. You're going to be adaptable, and you're going to try to present a lot of ideas so that way there are choices. You're going to be efficient as well, right? You're not going to spend a lot of time noodling on one idea until you know it's the idea everybody is in love with. So, strategic approach and malleability and thinking on your feet and supporting the rest of the team because you are an idea battery for the rest of the team. You're at the beginning of the process. I mean, aside from the writing, right, or the game design and the art pipeline, you're at the front. So you are the battery driving the rest of the team. If your battery gets drained, you have to find your ways to refuel yourself. Maybe it's going and talking to some animators and seeing cool stuff they're animating. Maybe it's going and watching an inspiring movie. Whatever it is, find what fuels you because you want to be sort of like an endless source of ideas for the team. I love concept art because it allows me to envision a different world through a different lens. It's sort of an escape, really. And you see a lot of people who have struggles in life. Not that other people don't, but I think that art is an outlet for people to deal with reality. It's a very successful way to deal with difficult realities, whether it's a family situation, whether it's a health condition, uh, different types of trauma, right? Fitting in socially, all these things. Art can be an amazing outlet for that. It's very rewarding in that way. And I think that a lot of people gravitate toward it for that reason. And, I think that it definitely is therapeutic for me. You're going to hear some of this stuff a lot. I think the main one you're going to hear everybody say is just draw a lot, right? It's about pencil mileage. Like at the end of the day, it's about how much you've drawn, right? And there's that famous thing where you've got to do something for whatever 10,000 hours before you're good at it. That stuff. There's evidence behind that stuff. So you've got to just sort of get in there and draw as much as you can. Now, how do you do something that much without burning up, right? Like that's you got to figure that out. So that's why you need to think about what inspires you and how to recharge yourself like we talked about before, right? Getting your battery filled up. Is it can be something really specific too. I think that's another thing I want to say is don't be afraid to be specialized even within concept art. Maybe you love drawing dragons and you're thinking, "Oh man, like there's not a lot of dragon drawing jobs." Well, you know what? If you just draw a lot of dragons and you get really good at drawing dragons, you're going to probably gain skills to draw other things tangentially and you're just racking up those hours, right? So don't go in and force yourself to draw stuff that you hate so that it ends up shutting you down so that you don't get those hours in, right? And I'm not saying that you shouldn't be like looking at training materials and taking courses and things like that. Like I'm not saying to be like myopic in that way because that's not as helpful, right? But try to find what you're passionate about because it's an easy way for you to just get more time in the saddle. I do have some thoughts about where the industry's headed. So obviously, computers, software has been getting so much more powerful every year. Like it's amazing what you can do in just your own home office, right? Like even just doing a remote job is more possible now than it used to be. That's amazing, right? Like it just in the last 5 years, it's transformed. And what this allows is for smaller teams to accomplish really, really big things that they couldn't before. So I think you'll be seeing more and more small studio efforts making big waves. Like again, you might only need a team of 10 people to do something really, really groundbreaking. That's exciting. So, I would say I tell a lot of students this that when they're job hunting to not be so binary about it. Like I'm going to apply to my favorite big studios and my favorite jobs, and that's it. Right. You don't want to be that way about it. Like that's what you're aiming for. But along the way, you're going to try to find all of these stepping stones. And one of the stepping stones can be working on indie projects, working with smaller teams. And again, because of the power of the software and the power of computers, do not underestimate what you can do as a team of 5, as a team of 10, right? Like that, there's a lot that can happen there. Um, yeah, just keep your eyes open. as well. I think every studio has its sort of golden years, and you just kind of want to look out for what's going on so that hopefully you can sort of be there for those golden years. I genuinely think that at the end of the day, people with real skills will win. They will always win, because if there's a tool that helps you to make stuff, it's going to help the person with the skills more than it is the person who doesn't have the skills.